Welcome to Light Portals. In this video you will learn how to use light portals. You'll be understanding the limitations of their use. See that they dramatically increase quality and are especially useful for indoor environments. And finally, just a note that they aren't used externally to Blender, so it's only within the Cycles engine in Blender. So let's have a quick look at what we're about to do. So this is an emissive plane outside and no portal. And we add a portal to the same scene and it ends up messier. So Mike, what's going on here? You told us that it was going to be better. Well, let's just look at a few other examples. This is an emissive window, so where the white rectangle is on the screen, that's the actual faces that would make up the whole, usually set as an emissive material. And again, with a portal, well, it actually looks a bit messier. So the important thing here is that it applies to environmental textures, not the lamps in the scene. So for instance, this is an environment outside that's pure white. So before with the fluffy bunny, we had an environment with some clouds on it, which made it look much more realistic. But for consistency here, I have set the environment to white, and it looks like this. All of these, by the way, are 10 samples. So that is unusable. However, with a portal turned on, you get something looking like this. Much, much better. And again, that's only 10 samples. The difference between that and that is literally night and day. And a final example here, this is what happens with a sun lamp outside at 1,000 samples. So it's taken 100 times longer to create than this, and this one is definitely better. Right, so enough of me showing you pictures, and let's experiment with this now and hop straight on over into Blender. So over in Blender, let's go and create ourselves a new file so we're not mucking up our church scene at the moment. So file, new, and off we go. So we've got a default cube, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cube inside a cube. The first thing that I'm going to do is make this cube bigger. So I'm going to scale it up until the camera goes inside the cube. I'm just going to check that the camera is inside the cube by whizzing round to the camera view. Perfect. Now, this is too zoomed in, but I can't move the camera back any further, so I'm going to have to make the camera angle wider so I can see more. So I'm going to select the camera in the outliner, and then in the properties window I'm going to make the focal length smaller. I'm just going to click and drag until it's of a size that I want. Obviously I can be a bit silly, that is a bit nuts. Looks like the outside of the cube, it's not, that's just a very wide angle lens. So it looks around 14, 15, yeah, that looks good to me. I'm going to set it to 15, I like whole numbers in this case, no other reason. And it looks like I've moved my 3D cursor, so I'm going to go Shift and S and cursor to center, and I'm going to go Shift A and add our mini cube. There we go. So we've now got a cube inside a cube. Let's render that and see what it looks like. Excellent, so we have our cube inside a cube, and it's lit by the lamp that's also inside the cube. So let's go ahead back to the 3D view and go to our lamp and delete it from the scene. There we go. I've got cube and cube 001. So this is the outer cube. Naming is always important. Outer cube. And of course this one in the middle, yeah, that's the inner cube. Brilliant. So now that we've got that sorted and we've deleted our lamp, what we now need to do is go into the world view and click on use nodes under surface, and I'm just going to use a plain colour here. So I'm going to make it a nice light colour, probably an orangey peach. You can pick another colour if you wanted to, and I'm probably going to need to increase the strength, so I'm going to switch the viewport shading to rendered mode. Now because we're inside the cube, of course there's no light, so it's all black. If I rotate the view round, we can see that the whole world essentially is now a sort of pinky, peachy, orangey colour. Anyway, so I'm going to increase the strength to probably 1.5. Excellent. And I'm going to go back inside my cube. I'm going to switch here to solid mode, select the outer cube and I'm going to cut some holes in it. Now there are several ways of cutting holes, but I am just going to subdivide one of the faces. So I'm going to select this face here and subdivide it a couple of times. Now I'm going to use this specials menu, which is the W key. I'm going to subdivide and I'm going to press W again and subdivide. I could have also gone down here on the tool shelf and click subdivide twice. It's entirely up to you the way you get to it. Now that I have several faces on the wall, I can remove some faces. So I'm going to remove these two faces here for a bit of interest. Now let's make it something like this. So it's an irregular window pattern. So let's go ahead and delete and faces. There we go. So we've now got this hole in our wall that if we hop into rendered mode, we can see it's now letting light into our cube, which is great. Let's see how it looks in the final rendered image as well. So it looks quite noisy, but at least we've got the light coming into the scene. So how can we improve that? Well, we can add a light portal. But before I hop in and add one of those, down here you can see we've got slot 1 on the header bar for the image editor. I'm going to switch that now to slot 2. Okay, now it's slot 2. When we add our portal and hit render again, we can directly compare the two images. So going back to the 3D view, we can now, I'm going to go into solid mode so I can move things. Now I want the 3D cursor pretty much in the middle of this window space that we're going to fill up with a portal. So I'm going to go to vertex, select that middle vertex, and I'm going to make sure I'm in object mode, and then I'm going to add, and we need to add a lamp that is an area lamp. Oh, silly me. Right, let's undo that for a second. I didn't actually move the cursor to selected. So Shift and S, cursor to selected. There we go. So now the 3D cursor is exactly on that vertex. When we go and add our lamp, area lamp, that's where the area lamp has appeared. So let's go to the lamp properties. In fact, I'm going to name this portal. Now you would think we'd need a 1, 2, 3, 4 portals. Well, in the case of setting up portals, what you really want to make sure is you have as few as possible, but as many as necessary. So we had light coming in from one of the other walls. I'd certainly advocate putting another portal in, because trying to make something stretch around a corner like that is not going to work. So first of all, let's switch it to portal. So in the properties, for the lamp itself, let's put a tick in portal, and you can scale it up here if you wanted to. There we go, we can see it getting bigger, or you can just hit the S key and scale. Now you can see here this is currently a square, and it's also set to square here. We want a rectangle. Excellent. So now we can scale it. It's the right width now, so let's try scaling it in the Y direction. There we go, we're making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Excellent. I'm going to rotate this round now on the X-axis by 90. And I'm just going to keep scaling that now on the Z until it reaches the ceiling and the floor, which is about there. Now that can come in a little on the X as well. So if you've got a square window, you can obviously leave it square, otherwise rectangle. Those are your only two choices. Now it doesn't matter that some of this portal is covered up with some additional faces. That's not going to make a huge amount of difference. So let's go and render this now and see what it looks like. It is still slightly grainy. Let's compare it to slot 1. Okay, it's slightly better. I think I know what I've done here, and you might do this as well. See this orange line coming out of the portal? Out of the area lamp, that is the direction that the light is going in, and we need to rotate that. So I'm going to rotate that round. Oh, hit the right key. I'm going to rotate that round the X-axis by 90 degrees. Oh no, 180. I'll get my numbers right one day. Okay, let's try and render that again. Oh, let's make sure we've got slot UV image as slot 2. Yeah, and let's go ahead and render that out. Then we can compare that to the original image that we did when it didn't have one, and you can see there is an absolutely wonderful difference. Now it's only 10 samples, so I wasn't expecting it to not be noisy, but you can see immediately there's a massive improvement. It's taken slightly longer. We can see here this one here took 6 seconds, 6.5 seconds give or take, and this one took 4. So it's taken roughly 1.5 times the amount of render time, But how much longer would you have to wait for this one not to be as noisy as this? I can almost guarantee, well, let's try it. Let's go in and set it to 20 samples. Let's give it a lead start there. So then when we render, oh, we still have the light portal turned on. Let's turn it off. The outliner and render image. So this is at 20 samples and it's still noisy, and that is a comparable time. It's just a little bit more, 7.5 seconds, and we compare that to here. This one is still cleaner, so you can see there's a huge benefit and time saving. Now, just to reiterate, you do have to watch the number of portals you have, try and keep them as low as possible, but as many as necessary. Just a reminder that this only works with the world properties, the background, the environmental texture. In this case, it's a plain color, or if you had a skybox on there like we had with the fluffy bunny, those sort of things are impacted by light portals. Currently, no other light sources are, so if we put an emissive material outside or a sun lamp, it doesn't change the underlying noise level. Whereas with an environmental texture and portals, it makes a huge difference. So, armed with that information, it's time for a challenge. I would like you to add windows to the church. So add an environment texture or adjust the world surface, pop a couple of windows in your church structure, and add light portals to those windows. Finally, render the scene and share it in the discussions. Pause the video now and give that a go. Okay guys, welcome back. Let's hop over into Blender and add some windows to the church. So I'm back over in the Gothic church here, and I'm going to make the cutout first of all. So I'm going to go to a brand new layer so I can focus on it and add in a basic cube, and I'm going to make that into an archway. So let's go in and edit that. I'm going to select this. I've got snapping still turned on, so I'll move it up by, oh, not move actually, I want to extrude in this case. Or do I? Let's try moving it instead. So let's undo that and just move it up to Blender units. I'm going to grab some edges, these two here, and add a bevel so it's nice and rounded. Finally, with the proportional editing tool turned on, the snapping tool turned off, I'm going to grab those two edges at the top and pull them up until they form a nice arch, locking it to the Z-axis as I do so. Okay, that's looking pretty good, so I can use that as my archway. Let's hop straight in. Oh, I'm going to hop into here and just rotate it around the Z-axis by 90 so it's aligned properly with the windows themselves, and then we should be able to turn everything back on. I'm going to hop into wireframe mode so I can see what's going on and look at it, not from there that, okay, my church could do with rotating or something along those lines. I'm going to put it roughly in the right position there, come round to the side, and I don't know which one's the real side actually, so let's just go in to the, I'm going to call that cutout so I know what it is, cutout, and I'm going to go on to the main floor here and just turn off the mirror modifier for the moment. So I'm just going to hide it from view, not from render. Now I know which side to apply the cut to, so I'm going to select here. Oh no, let's array these first before doing that. So let's go around to the side with an array modifier, and we need two of them, and it's not that one there obviously. Let's go in here and delete that, set it to 0 rather, and -3, yeah, there we go. So there we go, we've got our 3 windows in place, and now we can select the main model, add a Boolean modifier, scroll down, we're going to use the cutout with a difference and apply. Now what that should do, result may not be, was not first. Oh okay, yeah, that's fine. We've only got the mirror modifier on there, so when we add the mirror modifier back on, we can see that we've got some windows in. Now we can use these again for the front and the back, but I'm going to keep it nice and simple and just leave it with the windows for the moment. I'm going to keep that just off on a different layer. Brilliant, so now I've got those there, we just need to seal up the back, so I'm going to edit here and just all this out. So let's extrude that out ever so slightly, doesn't have to be much, and extrude it up. But I'm going to lock it to edges, so I can select that edge there, and we have a sealed room. Now let's go to the camera. Let's see what the camera's looking at. Oh, where is the camera? Okay, let's lock the camera to a view. And oh, we're in a pillar, are we? Yes, we are. Perfect. Right, let's go into the top view here with wireframe on and shift it right to the back. So it's almost through there. It's view from the camera again. Excellent. Low down camera is going to give it a nice big appeal. But let's go back here. Lock the camera to view so I can move it back. I want to see more of our scene, so I'm going to have to reduce the focal length to probably 15 might be a bit too far. Let's lift the camera up. No, that looks okay. Tilt it forward a bit so I don't look like a small child walking through. That is looking pretty good. And let's not lock the camera to the view. Let's just do a quick render and see how that looks. Excellent. So that's coming out okay. So we've got a couple of other things to do. We've got a lamp in the scene still. I'm going to get rid of that. All I want at the moment is a light source outside. So the world settings, I'm going to use a background. I'm going to set the colour here to... I'm going to go for a bit of a bluey tinge. Oh no, let's make it warm again still. So light there. And I'm going to set this to, I'm going to guess 2.5 since it's quite a large building. We'll soon find out. So let's go and hit render again. Excellent. So we've got a very grainy image. That's great because we can compare that in a moment. I'm going to go to slot 2 and let's add some portals. Ooh, I'm having trouble zooming there, so I'll just reset my zoom. Right, so I'm going to need to add in, I'm just going to click here, add in a lamp of type area. So I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis by 90. I think that's facing the right way now. Let's scale that up so we can see what's going on. Oh, if you scale negatively, of course, it inverts itself. Let's look at it from the side and focus on it. Move that up, across. It looks a bit on the big side at the moment. Ah, we're snapping, that's why I'm having trouble. So let's turn the snapping tool off. I think I'm actually looking at it from the other side at the moment. And it needs to be a rectangle, so let's go make it a portal for a start and make it a rectangle and scale in the z-axis. Right, let's just see where that is. Oh, it is there. I just couldn't see the outline before. Let's scale it a little bit more in, pull it up, and it's going the right way, so I'm happy with that. Just make a few smaller alterations, and then I'm going to use Alt and D to duplicate that, move it on the Z-axis and pop one there, and Alt and D again, and only on the X-axis and plop one there. Selecting all three, if I can, I'm going to select all three here in the outline because it's a lot easier, and I'm going to duplicate them again. But this time I'm going to move them on the Y-axis right through to the other side of the building. Then I'm going to spin round with them. Now I need to rotate them all at once, so I'm going to set the pivot point to the individual origins. So they'll all rotate around their own origins, and we need to rotate it on the Z by 180, and now they should be facing the right way. But I just need to snap them to this wall here when I'm moving them. So I'm moving them here on the Y-axis and there. Brilliant. So let's go ahead and render the image and see how that looks in comparison. So that's letting I can already see a lot more light in. A few extra windows on here wouldn't go amiss. Let's compare the two. As you can see, shot 2 is a lot cleaner than shot 1. Brilliant. How did you guys get on? What's your church looking like now? Please share in the discussion so I can see how you're getting on, and I will see you guys in the next lecture.